Available May 1st at all streaming and download sites. For more information, go to 10tonmojo.com. Welcome to Musings, Rants, and Guitars, May 2nd, 2021. Welcome to our special guest, Dellacoma Rio. Hey,
yeah.
Del, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Hello, brother.
Dean.
So
good morning
good to see you.
Good, absolutely good morning to you. Sorry we woke you.
Yeah.
I hope you guys drink coffee, right? Have some.
I got my coffee now, so I'm good.
All right, then.
Good. I've got my evening coffee. I'm joining you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I'll see if there's any Kahlua around.
That's excellent. Excellent.
Sorry, that's a cup of scotch.
Man, the amount of times that I've the next morning on tour, you've gone, man.
Oh yeah.
It's a shame to waste a good drink. And I mean, it's one thing if it's a couple mouthfuls, but if there's a 3/4 full drink, the amount of times I've gone, surely it can't be that bad. And you take a sip and you're like, oh, yep, definitely is that bad. It is not a good way to wake up. And why did I do that again? I told myself I wasn't going to do that again.
I've definitely rolled over in hotels and gone, this seems okay.
Yeah.
No drink should ever be wasted.
Right. And no, not okay.
Yeah, I definitely. I know I had a problem in my 20s when I didn't have milk, and me and my roommate were we have a lot of beer, so it was beer and Fruit Loops one morning, and it wasn't good beer. I mean, we're talking
Breakfast
Peels.
of champions.
Peels, that's not good beer. I think it was $2.98 for the case at that point.
Was it warm?
I'm afraid that it was.
Yeah.
I was doing some work playing music on a cruise ship one time, and stayed up all night at the crew bar, right? And at some point, there was just with some crew and everything, and one of them had to go to work. It was 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and so we decided it'd be a good idea in our state to go. They're having milk on their cornflakes or whatever, and I was like, you know what? I've never tried Bailey's on cornflakes. And
oh yes, I haven't either, but that sounds good.
It's actually not too bad. The hardest part, about Bailey's on cornflakes, you realize how much Bailey's you're actually consuming, and how close you are to projectiling later.
Oh yeah. I mean that stuff. I think some of the sweetest stuff is just horrific to you. I mean, we have something here, and I'm not sure how international it is, but Southern Comfort, which is so it's 100 proof sweet corn whiskey pretty much, and it's as a kid, this goes down, comes up. Sweet.
Yeah. Goes sideways.
Sideways.
One of the most, dude, there was a band that used to open for us when we'd go through this place in Mississippi, and the drummer, he would have the premixes of Southern Comfort and Coke. And I was like, man, Southern Comfort is so sickly sweet anyway.
And a Coke.
And you're adding Coke to it?
Coke? I was like, how do you, he would be drinking them while, that was his drink when he was drumming. And I was like, how are you not, throwing up? Because it's not like he's just standing there. He's, actually playing drums, I
can't even, those two together, it's just, oh, my God. Good God, but I don't know. We got people here who drink, who love Jägermeister, and I still can't figure that out. Life of me.
So, chiming in quickly from Facebook, Kara from Perth says, "Hey, Dell."
Here we
G'day,
go.
Kara. G'day, Kara. She saw me play on a cruise ship and has been an amazing fan since then. And her football team played my football team yesterday, and I've been holding off messaging her because she's always very kind. Mine did win, which was good because we needed the win.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, Kara. It's always good to have your support.
Awesome.
Great. So, tell us, that we have to ask all our people. What about this COVID shutdown? How's this been treating you? And where did it start for you? You told us quickly, but I don't.
Yeah,
know
you
if
told
everybody
us
else
quickly.
knows.
So where were you when this whole thing started to go down?
Well, I was working on a cruise ship, doing my In Excess tribute, which is something that I do when I'm not doing my original stuff. And I was doing that through what is our summer, which is December to February of 2019 into 2020, and that was when we had a booking that got cancelled because the cruise ship was not going to China. We were meant to go to China. We ended up going to Japan instead. And that was when stuff sort of started. And then I had a Dellacoma's Cosmic Experience tour booked for the US. And it was meant to go to because my parents live in the US. They live in Texas. And I was meant to do a 2-week tour and then go to my mum's 60th. Halfway through the tour, I was in upstate New York. And I got off stage, and the bar owner said with a chuckle, "Wry smile, you could be the last person to play New York for a while." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said that the governor's just shut down the entire state. And kind of had a bit of a laugh about it. But then, I mean, we dubbed the tour bus the Corona van. We were drinking
Right.
cases of Corona. We'd buy toilet paper and, bring some toilet paper to the venues and stuff like this, the first few shows. We'd only played like 4 shows of the tour. We still had another week and a bit left. The next day, that was a Sunday. The next day, the Monday, everything just shut down. And I had a good friend who worked for Virgin Airlines, and she said, "You've got to get home." And I said, I said, "You know what? I think if my tour is canceled, I'm just going to go see my parents, hang out for a bit." Because I came over here for the tour, but also to see them. And she goes, "No, your flight doesn't exist." And I said, "Yeah, it does. I haven't gotten the message that it's been canceled." And she goes, "Trust me, I work for the airline. From an internal level, your flight doesn't exist. You've got to get out of there." And so next thing I know, I'm on standby.
We're losing a little bit of Dell's bandwidth.
In Boston Airport.
Here we go.
Trying to get back to Australia, and the city. My bandwidth is low.
Yeah. You're coming through okay now. You're coming through okay now.
Okay. Let me. I'll try moving over to my phone internet, because sometimes that's better for some strange reason.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah, we have days like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you're in Rochester. They're telling you that and we were here. I mean, we're in New York, and we when they shut down, like you said, it was just before St. Patrick's Day too in New York.
Yeah.
And, so I'm in New York City through this whole thing, and New York City for St. Patrick's Day is insane, right? It's absolutely insane. People are throwing up everywhere, right? And it's just out of hand. Green, and there's fighting, and the parade, and more fighting, and brothers beating each other up, and then hugging each other, telling them they love each other. I walked down the street on St. Patrick's Day, and there were no people in New York. I mean, it was as empty as if it were Sunday morning, for church.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a strange experience that. So
I've done a lot of flying in my day, and it was one of the most surreal experiences for me going to LAX, because at all hours of the day, that is just teeming with people.
right.
And I was on a standby flight to try and get home. So I just slept in the airport and then just went back up to the desk, and I was there for 2 days. And because they were canceling all these flights, there were times when it was just completely deserted. And I remember taking a video and posting it on Instagram, just because I'd never seen that before. Like, there was like, shops were not open, that they'd canceled all the early flights. So there was no, like, even cleaners weren't in. It
Right.
was just the most bizarre thing for me. I literally felt like I was in a movie or something, You're like having to
Oh
pinch
yeah,
yourself.
it was
What's going on?
absolutely, it was like that. I was in the subway on a couple of the days where it was so surreal. There's no people. The newspaper's blowing by, and the paging
Yeah.
system going overhead is going, do your part to fight the virus.
Yep.
And you're like, oh my god, I'm in a science fiction movie. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So no trains, no people, just the newspaper blowing away and the paging going on. It's like 100 years from now, and I'm discovering this place. This fucking
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. So LAX is 24/7, right? There's red eye flights to everywhere in the world, and you're in there, and there's no people. That's
Yeah.
insane.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. And I remember and I went from that. So I got the flight home, and then now they do hotel quarantine. So it's mandated, if you fly in from overseas, you have to do 2 weeks in a hotel. But at that point, they were still allowing you to quarantine at home. And I remember I took the bus from the airport to where I was staying, because I had actually gotten rid of. I'd moved out of my roommate situation. It just was not doing very well. So at the beginning of the summer, I'd moved out, and I just put my stuff in storage because I didn't have a whole lot of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm on the cruise ships, and then I'm on tour. I'm just going to worry about getting a place in May. So I had a friend who was letting me just crash on the couch when I was home, because I wasn't home much. And so that was what I put down as my quarantine address. And I remember getting off the bus and walking up to the door and having this surreal moment of going, as soon as I walk in this door, I can't come back out this door for 2 weeks. And it was like, it was so strange. And I'll never forget that feeling of just like looking at the door and just in a weird way, it gave me an appreciation, for every decision that you make, in your life. Like deciding to grab a beer from the fridge, or deciding, no, I'm not going to grab that beer from the fridge, deciding that, I'm going to call in sick today, or I'm not going to call in sick today. Deciding you're going to hit snooze or not hit snooze, like every decision you have in life has a butterfly effect. Right.
Yes.
But that was one of those moments for me that I really felt that. And I was like, wow, this moment right now, before I walk into that door, I can choose how long I take to open that door, but as soon as I go in that door, I can't come out for 2 weeks.
That's a weird thought. Amazing just to do that. Well, so anyway, we're hopefully on the other side of all this, right? Right now, New York it's spring. It's beautiful. There are people. What they've done is a lot of restaurants have built outdoor seating with covers and stuff, so
Yeah.
that they've overflowed to that. They've done a beautiful job. The city looks great. It looks better than it did, before. It's a lot cleaner. A lot. It seems better. What's really weird for us right now that I've noticed is there's not as many cabs, because I guess there's not as many people getting around. So it's a little weird, because New York used to be just yellow, right, with everything. But
Yeah.
right now it's great. A lot of good stuff coming. I know that we're going to be opening up Broadway again, so that means music's coming back. So we're getting there. I think capacity is still low, just like you talked about. We'll talk about that in a second. So, but we're approaching the other side. how are things where you are as far as that goes at this point? A year later.
It's still pretty tough. We're still at in Victoria, so Melbourne is kind of our music capital for Australia, and that's where I lived for the last 7 years. At the end of last year, I moved north to Queensland. I moved in with my sister just to cut my costs, really. And it's more like sunshine. Queensland's kind of like our version of Florida, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
But it's where I moved. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. I couldn't afford to live down here anymore. I'm back down in Melbourne at the moment. I had my first acoustic show, which is the first time I did original music since New York. Wow. I had that yesterday, and that was pretty amazing. And I've done a couple of In Excess tribute shows. I've probably done maybe 4 in the last year, and a couple of acoustic cover shows. But it's pretty tough over here, because most places have halved their prices for musicians, and because musos are keen to get out, they're doing it. So then you kind of look at from a pragmatic point of view, you kind of look at it and you go, man, I really want to get out and play. But then the flip side of that is, if once you kind of devalue what you do, like does the value ever go back up again, and you start thinking about the long term?
Right.
That's a really good point, because club owners and promoters are notorious for that. Will tell you whatever excuse they have so they don't pay you, right? So they're still, we're still recouping from the COVID, so we're still going to give you 75% of what we would do before. Meanwhile, on the back end, they get 125% because of that. So, but look, we've hopefully people are working together. I know a lot of our friends have done stuff for lower costs or lower things, just as part of a trade-off, not a trade-off, but as part of working together in a partnership with owners and promoters. But like you said, we'll see when it actually comes back around, when the money's in their pocket.
Yeah, that's it, and that's the thing. I mean, we had a scenario with a venue that's always been really good to us, that gets the In Excess tribute up, and they'd cut our pay, and then they asked us to play an extra half hour, and
wow,
we were like, coming out of coronavirus and all that sort of stuff, you got to make some concessions, and we need to work and all that. And then we get up there, and then when we play, they did $25,000 worth of meals alone, right, and the day that we played.
Yeah.
And then, then you talk about it, and they're like, yeah, this is, we've had the biggest night, you guys here. So then we're thinking, when they rebook us, and they're quick to rebook us, and we're like, oh, sweet. We're back on. No, the same cut rate. And it's like, man, I want to work with you. But at the same point, musicians are often, and I don't want to sound like a whinging muso, but I know you guys get it. We're often the first. If you do a charity show, the bar is still making their money. They often, the alcohol companies are not donating their thing. The bar staff are generally not donating their time. The sound person generally gets paid, but it's usually the musos that are the first that get asked to donate their time. Unfortunately, I feel like that's probably going to be a side effect coming out of this. But on a positive note, I do think that music and art in general has never been more important. And I do feel very blessed to be alive at this time, and playing music, because it's times like this that people really do turn to music, and you get some really cool music coming out of times like this. In the same way that that the 60s and 70s had some really powerful music that came out of that because of what was going on, especially in the US
with the war and everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the way that as bad as polarization is, and it's something that I don't like polarization, but generally it's spawned by very strong opinions, and when you've got very strong opinions, people that are very passionate about things and holding opposing views, I think artists in general and especially musicians, we're observers. You know, we're looking at things, and obviously we have our own opinions as well, but I feel like there is a very important job of musicians to look at what's going on and to paint that musical picture of what we see. And when you have strong opinions and when you have real intense polarization, like you did in the 60s and 70s with people around that time, I think there's a lot of powerful music that can come out of that time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, my challenge and thought of this is the fact it's been so really rough. I think we're in for a really heavy, sweet pop wave right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be the dark days of
Yeah.
of
Well,
you know
Yeah.
deep
Well,
political.
if you think about, you know, the fact that a lot of musicians weren't touring, so a lot of musicians are sitting there writing instead.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like all of us original guys were all like, well, it gives us a break that we actually needed to sit down and write anyway, so let's do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's going to churn out a lot of music.
well, that's one thing with you, Dale. You just never stop working. You just keep writing and writing and writing, and you got a new album coming out, Blood, or it's about to be released. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that and how you stayed positive through such a negative time and just merged ahead creating music? Because some of it, from what we heard, was just outstanding.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this record has been. I started it in 2016, and then I went through a band breakup in 2017. So then I restarted the album again. I went through another band breakup in 2018, and I tore my Achilles in 2019, and went through. In 2018, band breakup, and went through a divorce. You know, that whole sort of like everything comes in threes. And so I planned to take 2019 off touring just to heal my Achilles, you know, finalize all the divorce stuff, and finish off this album that I started and restarted a few times. And then I was going to come back in 2020. And obviously we know what happened in 2020. So
Yeah.
it was,
Absolutely.
but it ended up being the blessing in disguise was that I was forced into a. I've been trying to get together a band and rehearse up, go on the road, and then write and record and go in. And I finally got to a point in 2020 when I was like, you know, it is a band. Dellacoma is a band, but it does have my name on it, and it is something that I put together. So without a touring lineup at the moment, I can still go ahead and I can choose basically who I want to play on the record, and we can do it all remotely, which is what we did. So I was able to call up some good mates of mine, one being Jaron Gelino.
From Mach 25.
Yep.
Mach 22. Excellent.
22. Yep. And he plays in Tantric and Heaven's Edge as well. He's always on the road. So he's played a couple shows with me before, but he would never be a permanent like band member just because he doesn't have the time. But I was able to call him up and say, hey, you know, what do you reckon about playing bass on this record? And I wouldn't have probably thought of doing that in another time. So that was one of the bonuses of it. It also gave me the time because I've been feeling the pressure of stopping and restarting so much. I felt like I was in a rush to get it out. And so it did kind of give me the time to kind of sit back and go, you know what? I can kind of not take my time, but like I don't have any prospective shows on the horizon, which you can kind of see often as a negative, but I guess mentally I tried to turn it into a positive and said, well, if there's no shows on the horizon, then I don't have a real deadline And I was able to put together a collection of songs that spanned the last 15 years for me. So I've got a song in there called Leave a Light On that I wrote in 2005.
Beautiful song.
Thank you. All the way through to a song that I wrote in quarantine called Stay. And that closes the album. And for me, it's finally having this record out is incredible, because I feel like it's been a long time in the making, and it's the first time that I've put together a record. It's not like I've got co-writers on all the songs, but it's the first time that I've really been the sole point person. Even with the first record, we'd gone on the road and we played all those songs live, whereas a lot of these songs have never been played live before,
Yeah.
And the members of the band have never even met each other, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like the captain at the wheel.
Yeah, you're definitely driving the ship.
Yeah, there's something very nautical about you. You're like this pirate kind of, God, I hear it in the lyrics. I'm like, he would just be like great in a remake of what was that movie? Captain and Commander. What was that?
Master and Commander.
That's it. Yeah. I picture you like in that role, like a badass pirate or something.
Oh, dude, it's funny because I had I had my birthday 3 weeks ago, right? And
happy birthday, brother!
Thank you. I spent my birthday 3 years ago with you guys at the Rail.
Yeah.
I still remember, still feeling it.
But my sister, the birthday card she gave me, the tagline on the front was, she says, "Happy birthday to the OG pirate."
Awesome.
I just put the flyer up from that show a couple years ago from the Rail. So
actually,
I cannot wait to get back on the Rail. Like I actually had I had a little moment. My first show in over a year as a full band live show was about a month ago. And I wasn't actually prepared for how depressed I actually felt after the show, because I was thinking, and I had to really wrestle with it. And I realized what it was through this whole time of not playing live, I'm somebody that tries to look at glass half full and all that. And so when there's no shows on the horizon, I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to think about it. And I think subconsciously, once I flick that switch again, but then there's nothing else on the horizon, that was actually a real letdown. And I didn't really think about that, right? I had that rush from being on stage and everything, but in the week following, I was really down and I couldn't figure it out until that kind of light bulb moment went off. And I was like, yeah, I've had a taste again. And it was like a tease. And I don't know what you guys are like if you guys been playing much at all or not, but I was just not prepared for that feeling of going, wow, that's a part of me that I just don't get to open that door much anymore, and I'm just not used to that. I'm used to touring whenever I want to. People say, oh, there's no way an independent artist can go and tour America. I'm like, well, watch me.
Bullshit.
Right.
No way
you had more gigs than anybody that I knew. Going, wow, this guy's. I was doing the Midwest, and then you're doing, the West Coast, and I'm like, holy shit, And you actually, with the help of various local promoters and stuff, that you kind of coordinated the run on the tour.
Yeah.
Like you were like, okay, we're going to start at your place, then we're going to work up this way, then we're going to end, then we'll come back to your place, and then we'll, and it was funny because the second time you came back to the Rail, I think Jason blew his knee out, your ankle was messed up, and you guys kind of came hobbled in. Like, this is what rock and roll does to you.
yeah.
It ain't easy, man.
Absolutely.
But real quick, I want to give a shout out to, I would have never have known who you were if it wasn't for Sean Patrick, who
Right.
brought to Long Island at a club that is no longer there, Even Flow, and then I believe another club, Revolutions, which through the COVID basically, had to shut its doors. But he brought you here when you were with the band Sunset Riot.
Yep.
And he was with, I don't know if he still is, with Renegade Radio, which was an awesome showcase for new talent. And he booked a show at the Crooked Rail And he said,
Yes.
I got these guys, Dellacoma, and I remember just being blown away with the fact that this was like a high caliber rock and roll band in a tiny little bar in the middle of East Northport, New York. And I was just like, oh my, that was just mind blowing. And been a fan ever since. So I just want to say, if it wasn't for Sean, who hopefully is listening, thank you very much for introducing us and the world to Dellacoma. So thank you, Sean.
Yeah, well, I got to thank Sean as well, because I mean,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, he brought us up there, and I've been very fortunate that there's several pockets of the US that probably, well, like when people look at that on the tour map and they go, I don't like, where is that? But it's literally because it's literally because people have had the balls to just message and say, hey, would you be up for coming to play this place? That's literally how it happens, because I mean, I do all my own tours and everything, and the bar that I played more than any bar in the world is a place called the Booby Trap in Topeka, Kansas.
I don't understand what that word means.
Well, that was literally a guy who did a radio show called Bleach Bangs, and he said, hey, I see your tour's already booked, and this was back when I was in Sunset Riot, and he said, see, you've got a gap, between Sunday and Thursday. Would you be up for doing a Tuesday show? And it just became a thing. And to the point where I ended up making a Dellacoma shirt that said, we don't work Wednesdays in Topeka. Because we'd play a Tuesday night show and just kick on, and people just started taking Wednesday off. So it'd come to town and be like a thing. Dellacoma's coming to town. You got to take the Wednesday off work. That's just the way we roll.
That's great.
Well, didn't we have you on? We had you at the Crooked Rail. I think it was a Sunday night.
Yeah,
and I remember I missed the next 2 days of work. I was
2 days.
And then I think when you were at the Rail, it was probably a Friday or Saturday night, but I just remember that both times that you played there, I was wiped out the next few days afterwards each time, and with good reason. It was just great.
At the Rail, it was a Saturday. It was April 14th.
Yeah. Okay.
There's the flyers up behind us now too.
Awesome.
I love the picture of you and Lenny together, because
I was
I've
hammered.
known Lenny for a few years.
I didn't even know you. I was like, let me take a picture.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was not sober either.
Yeah.
But so this leads me to my next question: is now you do the INXS, the Australian INXS show or experience.
Yep.
And you also do, I believe, a Bon Jovi.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We've had debates here in Long Island. It's all over the internet. Cover band versus tribute band versus original band. Mm-hmm. Who does what, whatever. But this, since you kind of do all three, how does one work with the other and the other? Like, how does being in a tribute band, a cover band, bar band, and an original band, do you hone your craft or take your experience from the original band and apply it to the cover tribute thing, or vice versa?
It's a great question, and they feed each other. See, like I've kind of come at this, what I feel like is backwards to a lot of people, because a lot of people start off doing covers. I mean, you think of the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. I mean, all the way through, and then they start writing their own music, right? And a lot of bands, I mean, even big bands, just in their first album, you're like, I know who they're into. One of my favorite Australian bands, a band called Silverchair, and their first album, it sounds like they're fans of Nirvana, because they were fans of Nirvana. And then they kind of found their feet, and they wrote some incredible songs. But I'd always resisted covers, because I'd seen what I felt like a lot of really good musos that were playing in cover bands, and then they had bills and expenses and everything, and they're like, I really want to tour with my originals, but I can't take off work, because then it's work, right? And you're like, I'm gonna miss out on $30,000, 30 or 40% of my week's pay if I take a Friday off. You know, if I take a full weekend off to do originals, you know, that's a week's worth of pay that I'm going without. And I'd always seen that as a bit of a trap. And so I've been asked by several In Excess shows through the years to play. And I'd always said no. And I finally got to a point where I was in my mid 30s, and I would go on tour with my originals, and I'd come home and I did some casual truck driving. I did some casual like construction. And I just remember coming home one time, and I'd finished the tour in Vegas, stayed up all night, bus to LA, flown home, gotten home at like 3:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday, woken up the next day, and I was like knee deep in shit, digging out this trench in the rain, and my back's hurting. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like surely there's got to be a better way.
I have other skills.
I have other
I do.
skills. Yeah. And the knock came again for the In Excess show. And I thought, you know what? I was like, I might as well try it, you know? But I approached it with the mentality. And when I had to sit down with the guys, because they're a serious band, and I said, look, I can commit, 10 months. I said, but I need 2 months. It doesn't have to be consecutive, but I need at least 2 months to be able to do my own stuff. And they were cool with that. And what I have found is that I feel like I'm good at the tribute stuff because I'm able to approach it with the skills of being in an original band. Because when you're in an original band, a lot of times you go into places and people don't know who you are. As you tour, people start to know your music and everything. But when you're first starting, or when you're trying to take over a city, you're like, man, I've always wanted to play that city. And so you go through, but nobody knows you there yet. You've got to convince people that have never heard your songs before. And you've got to do that with your stage show and your delivery. You've got to make sure you're on point. You've got to make sure you're engaging. And sometimes I feel like with covers, a trap that musicians can fall into is everybody knows Sweet Child of Mine. So, I mean, the song kind of plays itself, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So, and as soon as you start that riff, people are into it. They know it, so not that a bit of laziness or complacency can creep in sometimes with musicians, because the songs themselves speak for themselves, and people are there knowing that they're going to know the songs, as opposed to, I'm just going to check out this band, never heard them before, don't know if I'm going to know their music. So I'm able to then bring that intensity, I guess, to the tribute show, and vice versa. I think being in a tribute show makes me better at my originals, because when you're in a tribute show, as opposed to being in just a cover band, you can't really do your own takes on stuff, because you're doing a musical theater experience, really.
Musical theater, yeah, absolutely.
It's essentially what it is, right? You're playing a role, and you're there to do it the way that they did it. You dress up like that, and that's why the gig is, because people say I look like Michael Hutchence. So
you're like a dead ringer for the guy.
Maybe not the best way of putting it.
Wow.
Where's my belt?
I feel like that.
Where's my belt? They took my belt.
But Todd, I should say, long story short, but it's a long story long.
It's all good.
I think if it's done right, they can both feed each other. I think the trick, though, is to make sure that you're with music, whether it's tribute or whether it's original, just doing stuff that you are passionate about. Because some musos do fall into the trap of like, man, I hate this song, but I have to play it because I'm in a cover band. And everybody goes off at that song. The fact of the matter is, there are millions of songs out there. If there's a song that you really do not like and you do not want to play, just don't play it. If it takes some of your soul away to play that song, just don't do it. It's different if you're in I personally don't like country. I could never be in a country tribute band or cover band. There's a lot of country leaning songs that I love. Like I love Lynyrd Skynyrd and I love the Eagles and I love Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Sure.
But I really don't like Keith Urban, and there's other country like artists that I just don't like. And I couldn't do what I do if I didn't like the music. And that's a big thing that I feel like a trap that musicians fall into with covers and originals is you're not going to play a song you don't like in your original band because you've got that emotional attachment to it. You wrote it. You write songs that you want to play, but then you go and do covers and you're like, well, we've got to play this song because everybody loves it, and I'll just do it.
Right. So,
Cool.
you don't want to do Margaritaville, but, people want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. We got a few people chiming in from, where they're chiming in from Facebook. Casey Brooks.
Oh, KC.
Oh, wow.
Says hi.
Hey,
Thank you, KC.
you made it home, brother.
Kara wanted us to know that
we're
she
following
just
you on
realized-
Facebook today.
Yeah, Kara wanted us to know that she just realized she was wearing her Dellacoma tee today. Not planned, she says. I think she's stalking us, so she probably was planned. And Brad Hartwick says, Dell, the new album rips.
Oh, cool.
Sweet.
G'day,
Yeah.
Brad.
Yep. So where can everybody get your new album? Let's give you a little plug here to start with, right?
Yeah, here we go.
The album actually isn't officially out until 7th of July.
Right.
So
You can
I've
pre-order it off
done-
your site, though, right?
Well, pre-orders are actually done now. I've actually
Okay.
sold out of all the advance copies. So I had 50 advance copies available,
Sweet.
and they've all sold out, which is really cool. And with this record, I tossed up whether I was going to do a CD or not because people just it's hard work selling CDs. And
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that the first record I've sold 5,000 copies of that independently on the road, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But in order to actually do that, and make it viable, I had to buy them in lots of like 2,000, 1,000 or 2,000 to actually get the price down low enough so that you can sell them for like $10 or whatever.
Right.
So with this one, I decided, because I love the physical side of it, and even and I love the artwork and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just from a pure business standpoint, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So with this one, I decided I'd charge a little bit more for the CD, and the people that actually want it, they can buy the CD. Otherwise, it'll be available for streaming.
Right.
But it'll be out. So I've just got a few. I think I've just ordered a small batch run of 500 or 1,000. That'll be available 7th of July, and that'll all be through my website, which is just dellacoma.com. And it'll be through my label as well, Curtain Call Records, which is out of Tennessee. They'll have some copies as well.
Excellent. I know we're, I'm in Grimjack, and we're going through the same thing. Our album's close to release. We're releasing a single next week, I think. A single, I don't know. It's May 14th is the actual date.
May 14th. We've
Yeah.
heard that.
Yeah, and you'll hear the commercial again, so shut up.
I was actually going to just do it live.
Do we, like how many people, how many do you buy? Because, are you going to be sitting on them for a long time? Because most people are just going to stream. I mean, I know people are asking, some people are asking, like, I want to have a physical
People
CD.
love hard copies too, but we don't know what
But it does make more sense to do it digitally because this way you're not holding on to like.
Yeah, I don't want to hold on to,
I miss an album cover. You sit there, you look at it, and you look at the back, and you read all the fine print. CDs were like, okay, it's got to look a little closer, but to do it digitally in this day and age, that's unfortunately the future. And it makes sense from what you said, a business point of view.
Although, vinyl's making a huge return. And
Yeah.
but to press vinyl is so expensive. I know I was looking at a small run. It's going to cost me in a small run without the cover like $14 an album.
No, is that what it is now?
Yeah, it was $13.99 for 100 vinyls, and that's without the artwork. I'm like, are you kidding me?
So, you know what? Not to interrupt, but I mean, I haven't purchased any vinyl lately. I mean, what are they? What are
It's
they?
about. It's going. I mean,
What are they
I just
selling
bought
like
some
a
for my
record
son, and they're from smaller bands,
Yeah.
and they're selling them for 21 to 25 to $35 an album.
Wow.
Here in
I'm not
Australia,
gonna-
it's
I'm not gonna get
35,
30 for a
45,
penny?
which is about
Is
the
it?
same.
That's what it is. Yeah.
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 45?
Yeah. 35
Wow.
to 45.
Yeah.
Well, damn, Dell, if you did an actual album for Blood, you're gonna have to do what Kiss did and put some of your blood in the
Yeah.
process.
and the old
Man, just
comic,
freaking
right?
go right for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a pair of sneakers.
Yeah.
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 So with the new album, you have a song "Kill Your Idols" is on this record,
Yep.
and that's your collaboration with Tracy Guns.
Correct. Yep.
How did that happen? Because you've aligned yourself with some pretty hot guitar players in the past. You Jason Todd, Tracy Guns. I mean, no matter who's in your band, that guy smokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
She is good.
He is really good, man. And he, we opened for, so I knew the promoter that was getting his solo band out before he got back together with LA Guns.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing a solo run, and the promoter in Colorado, outside of Denver, put us on as main support. And then we got on as main support again, like 2 days later in Vegas. Because again, I knew the promoter. So at the second show, he was like, "Hey, you guys, I just saw you guys like 2 days ago, didn't I?" So we had a bit of a chat, which was kind of cool, and then exchanged details, which is cool as well. I didn't really chat much beyond that, but he started following me on social media. And then before I got Jason, I reached out to Tracy and Stevie D from Buck Cherry, who I've also met through and I asked them, I asked both of them, I said, "Hey, what's your availability? Would you be interested in doing a run on guitar?" And Trace, that was right when Tracy got back together with LA Guns, and he said, "Look, I'd love to, but I'm back with LA Guns and I can't really commit because we've got some dates coming up." Stevie D, I can't remember. He had something else as well going on that he couldn't do. It wasn't Buck Cherry. He was doing something else. I can't remember. So I ended up getting Chris Green, who was Taiketo and Rubicon Cross. I'm trying to think. He was in something else too. Actually, he was a filling guitarist in Nelson for a little while, but
Sometimes work is work.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris Green ended up doing a US run and a European run with me. And then after that was when I linked up with Jason, ended up getting Jason on board. But with this one, I was, again, because it's been so long since I've had a record, I thought, I need to try and figure out some ways of maybe promoting in different ways. And one of the good ways is to just get a guest. You get a guest solo, you get a guest vocalist, or do a duet, or something. And so, I just reached out to Tracy, and the email he'd give me just goes to his manager. So I was like, oh, here we go. I'm not actually going to get to speak to him. But once we'd sorted out the business, he put me on to Tracy, and Tracy was like, oh, hey, how you doing? How's the kids? And everything. Lovely dude. He lives in Denmark now. So I just sent him the track, and he just said, what do you want? Do you want me to play the whole song? Do you want me to do some leads, solo? What there? And took him maybe a week or two, and he had it all done, and it was really cool. Yeah.
Well, it sounds amazing. Now, that's going to be the copy that is going to be on the record, or is
Correct.
it going to be a different version of that? Or?
No. Yeah, that's the. So, "Kill Your Idols" is the first single that's out.
Mm-hmm.
The next single that's going to be coming out is the first track on the record called "Adrenaline." So we're working on a music video at the moment because I'd like the people that were "Kill Your Idols" as a lyric video. I want to shoot an actual music video for Adrenaline, but it's hard with no one living in the same city.
Yeah.
I could get other people to play, but I'd like the people that actually played on the song to be in the video. So kind of working through with the video director ways that we can shoot remotely and have it still actually be a video that doesn't look like it's remote. So, because I don't want to do the isolation videos, you know. So many of those have been going around. I get it, you know, but yeah, I just didn't want to do one of those for a music video. So we're trying to do some green screen things and doing some different, just trying to get a bit creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Very cool. We're playing a little bit of Kill Your Riders behind us right now. So hopefully
Awesome.
Real's going to hear it a little bit.
Now, when you're writing for an album, I mean, I know with you it comes from the heart, but do you ever think in terms of, I have to have some kind of a hit single on here or anything? Does that ever cross your mind, or are you ever pressured into, well, Del, we need something here. What do you got? And were you amazed with the success that moving on to something new had when you did that record?
Well, yeah, moving on to something new. I mean, that's the. I mean, I think on YouTube, you know, that's over 300,000 views on that, which is quite a lot. I feel like for an independent artist. And that, I mean, that song was on, you know, it was on the radio in 40 countries. It's still on several FM radio stations in several different countries. I was kind of surprised with, to be honest. I mean, I think it's a good song, but at the same time, yeah, why that song and not another song?
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? I think when it comes to the like hit single thing, I kind of approach this. I guess I feel like from the body of work standpoint, if I want to put together songs that I think whether they take off on radio or not, I don't really write that way. I just want to write songs that I think people want to listen to. And then for an album, it's about balance of the album. I want to tell a story throughout the album. So there's certain songs, you know, sometimes you'll be writing and you'll go, oh, this is a great song, but I can't really have it on the same record as this other song, because not that they sound the same, but they kind of fill that same pocket.
Exactly.
If you will,
Yep.
you know, there's only so many ballads you can have on a record, you know, there's only so many, you know, and this record I feel like is most expansive and diverse record that I put out, which I'm really proud of, which is exactly what I wanted to do is do a record where I feel like every song is different and but they all flow together. And once you're done writing, I'm sure as you guys in Grim Jack know, like when you're first writing, you're not quite sure where each song is going to fit, maybe.
Right.
But then as you flesh it out as a band, you start to see where things are going to kind of fit. But for me anyway, and I don't know if it's the same way for you guys, but even after everything is demoed and recorded, I'm still not totally sure what the track listing is going to be. And sometimes
Absolutely.
what you think is going to, oh, this is definitely going to be an album opener, or definitely this is going to be a closer. And then you start listening to it and you're like, actually, that's more of a track 4. And I couldn't tell you why. I just, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and you start listening through and you're like, oh, actually, I want more punch at the beginning. Maybe I should move that from down there up here.
Yeah.
Oh, but do I really want that song second? Oh, I'm not sure if I want that there.
Yeah.
There's a song.
We were just having this discussion because we have 2 songs on our new release that are closers. So
Yeah.
that's why we got to do vinyl. So this way we can have one side and the other.
Yeah.
I'm going to do 2 CDs and like just imagine their sides.
Yeah. I mean, there is, I do think that there's a real art to creating an album. It's not
absolutely.
just,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's like a
Absolutely
set
so.
list. You know,
Yeah.
there is a real art to creating a set list, because the songs that follow each other, and how they flow into one another, you're taking the audience on a journey. And you can just play a collection of songs in random order or alphabetical order or numerical order or whatever, or you can actually curate it and say, we want to take the audience here or there. And you mentioned before that I do a Bon Jovi show, and I don't do it very much, but when I do, we always have a real difficulty in curating that live set list, because there's a lot of Bon Jovi songs that kind of fit the same part of a live set list.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to play Bed of Roses and Always in the same set, because
It's kind of like the same thing.
they fill the same
Void.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and then you've got In These Arms that is not quite the same, but it does kind of fill the same part. And then you think, oh, you know, like Wanted Dead or Alive, it's also kind of, it's not the same, but it is. So then that's when we've sort of brought in some like Born to Be My Baby and stuff like that maybe wasn't as big a hit, but just to balance out the set list, because it's a little bit more driving. Yeah, I think in an album, there's a song on this record. I think I've got it at track 4, Akashic Memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like live, that would probably be a show opener, just because in my head, I can see how it would open. It starts with the drums on the floor toms, and then the guitar riff comes in, you know, so the drummer would walk out and start that song, and then the guitarist would walk out, and then the bass player would walk out. But so initially I had that as a album opener. But then I was looking at it and I was like, you know, I do think it'd be a powerful show opener, but I don't know if it's the best album opener. Like if you're just listening to it and not watching it, it probably actually fits a little bit later. So there's definitely an art to it.
Well, there's definitely, you know, there are live songs and there are record songs too, you know.
Yeah.
So, and you know what comes across. I mean, some of the simple songs, you know, come across as great openers. You know, you just come out there and you're bashing away, but you know, it's not the opening, you know, for a record. You know, there's
absolutely.
Like you said, there's a total art to making.
Yeah.
And me and Tommy know, and Lenny know, that opening a whole show with 2 minutes and 32 seconds of a G chord is the only way to go. One of our guests had to let go that, that happened.
But he absolutely let it go for a couple of minutes before he's like, okay, this isn't funny anymore. Now we gotta reel Pat in.
Well, I think that is so important. And now it makes sense how I fell in love with the band the first time I heard you play at the Crooked Rail was the balance, because you just set the pace, and it was just like being on a roller coaster ride through the amount of time that you were on the stage. And it was just the right amount of pumping songs. Then you break it down a little bit and then back up. And then, you know, and it was just like, I think that's why I kept drinking, was because it was just, the pace was just so like this. Give me another beer. This is incredible. And you did that every time. And you sprinkled in, like, I think one time you opened up the Toys in the Attic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also did UFO Red Hot.
Hot and Ready.
Which when I was just like, this band is, as soon as you did that, I was sold. And I think that was the second song. And I was just like, but you know, that, because a lot of times you get bands that will start slow. Or, I mean, they don't set the pace, you know, and to engage me. And I want to be engaged, and I want to sit there and go the whole way. But then they lose me when they, you know, and it's, I don't know why that is, but there's a disconnect, but it's because of the balance.
Yeah.
Like it's not cohesive. And I just lose interest after a couple of songs if they don't do it the right way. So I think that's an important thing to always take into consideration when you're putting together a live set or a set for a record, for recording.
I think there's a responsibility, and this is why you as an audience member, There's certain bands that you just hang to go and see because the artist on stage has a responsibility to take control of the night. And if you allow your insecurities, or you allow the audience to take control of the night, then it's not as powerful. And I think from an audience standpoint, when you're there and you're witnessing and you're experiencing, and hopefully you're a part of it as well, but you don't really know where it's going. There's an exhilaration there. And I think sometimes bands will, maybe it's because they know a lot of the members of the audience or whatever, and they'll, and different shows have different vibes, obviously, but when you do what you're talking about, when you set the pace and you said, you guys are here, we're going on this journey, you've got no idea where you're going on that journey.
That's now, the best part.
Once you've been to the show a few times, you kind of know what you're in for, but at the same time, the band is in control. And when the band's in control of where you're going, as an audience member, whether you're there to celebrate, whether you're there to forget about your shitty week at work, whether you're there just to try and have some fun, whatever it is you're there for, that's cool, because you don't have to think about where the night's going. The band's in charge of that, and everybody in the audience is in the same boat. They've hopped aboard this pirate ship, and it is going. and you're like, well,
I captain.
You will.
Awesome.
That's exactly what it is, and you're at the helm, Captain Blood over here. So I want to ask you, you've played around the world. You've been to Europe. You obviously been to the States, your hometown, Australia, home country. Is there a difference in the structure of the audiences that come see you, or is it all the same, all about the music?
Definitely a difference. I think Australians are a lot more laid back. Americans, as a general rule, and I have found, because people over here, they ask me, oh, what's it like to tour America? And I go, well, it's a really hard question, because playing LA is totally different to playing Mississippi. And playing Mississippi is totally different to playing New York City. And playing New York City is totally different to playing upstate New York. So, I mean, playing London is totally different to playing rural Spain. It's just, but having said that, I think that generally speaking, once we get going, no matter where we are, I think that there is a bit of respect there from the audience that we're there and we're giving everything. I think generally speaking, we win that respect fairly quickly, because every lineup I've been with, we get on stage and we go, regardless of what's happening off the stage, we're creating a night here, and if people don't like it, then they can leave, not in a bad way, but we're here to do what we do, and we believe in what we do, and we're here to create an experience, and involve the audience in that, and invite them to join us in that. And then tomorrow we're going to create a different experience in a different place with a different group of people. And each night is going to be unique because it's not scripted. Yes, we might have a set list that is pretty much the same, but there's always tweaks every single night. Every band I've been in, it's pretty rare to do the same, exact same set list, more than 2 nights in a row. And even 2 nights in a row, often there's even just little tweaks. Oh, I don't feel like playing this song here tonight, play it a little bit later. Or, you roll in one place and the band before you is really super heavy and you're like, all right, we're going to come out with a punk song, first, or the band before you is really, really soft. And you're like, well, maybe we should start off with a bluesy number, just so it's not as much of a shock to the system. Or maybe you say, well, the band before us is really soft, so we do want to shock the system, so.
Awesome.
I'm gonna have to probably wrap it up here pretty soon, fellas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I get it. I get it. We got you early. We're going to ask you quickly because you've played a lot and played in a lot of places, and we ask everybody, do you have one of those Spinal Tap moments that you could share with us where shit went awry really badly?
I'm going to share probably the worst Spinal Tap moment ever, and it's from the tribute, the INXS tribute show. But before I do that, I'll do a little one that was very embarrassing. So
Okay.
and this was Dellacoma. I tore my Achilles during the 2018 tour,
Right.
and it was in Florida, and we had a show that night. And I was like, so I put myself in a moon boot. But I didn't want to do a moon boot on stage. So I was like, I'll get up on stage and I'll take the moon boot off and I just won't put any weight on my right foot. So I won't be able to move around much. But I'll do the Jim Morrison, I'll just kind of lean on the mic stand. I was in a lot of pain, so that kind of helped in a lot of ways. But about halfway through the show, I got into a song and I just leaned to my right. And I face planted off the stage because my Achilles couldn't handle it.
Right.
And it hurt and it was very embarrassing, but it probably looked like a total Jim Morrison thing to just kind of lean to the side and then just keep going. I literally kept going. But my biggest Spinal Tap moment was in the INXS show. So in the INXS show, on the cruise ships. Now, I'm not a fan of using tracks live, but we do put on the cruise ships. They only allow INXS is a 6-piece band, and they only allow 5 pieces on board. So we put the keyboards on a track when we play on the cruise ships.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's and everything is we do videos.
Oh, sweet.
So the whole show has got like when we play with that show, we only play with those places that have screens. So there's videos that we've created for each song, and the drummer actually starts every track, and it's linked to the videos. Well, during the day, he was editing one of the videos and decided to swap it out. And the videos are linked to the keyboard track. So as soon as he starts the keyboard track, the videos start. Now, it was the song Never Tear Us Apart, which is arguably INXS's biggest song. So we have that second last, and it starts off at dun, 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 dun. So it's a vocalist, right? So there's no drums, no guitars. So I'm just pitching off of what that is. So don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you, right? I start all that. And then when the band comes in, is right at the end of the first chorus, it's like do 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 do, right? So the guitarist goes to come in and he's out of key. He's like do do do, and then he stops and he kind of like looks around. It's like, ooh, well, that's weird. Do do do.
Still weird.
That's weird. See, he just stops, right? Then the drums come in, the bass comes in, the other guitar player goes to come in, and he's like, whoa. So they're both guitarists are tuning, and I'm singing, and then they come in again, and I'm out of key with the guitars. The guitarists are tuning up, and they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Anyway, everyone's filming. And they realize, they're like, we can't not play, but they don't know what's going on. So they're trying to play the saxophone. The guitar player's doing the saxophone. The sax is out of key. And it was one of those naked moments where I'm like, oh my God, please help this song just end. And the guitarists keep running off stage to check their guitar, and they tune it and they come back on, they start playing and it's out of key. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm singing and I'm having to choose between which key do I want? Do I want the guitar key or the keyboard's key? I don't know.
Wow.
Anyways, I'm freaking out. And there's video of this all over the internet.
Oh, I got to find this. Oh, God.
We worked out afterwards that when he was editing the video, he'd accidentally stretched the keys track.
Okay.
Which then obviously detuned it.
Yeah.
But he'd how crazy is this? He'd actually detuned it a full like half step. Like it wasn't even in a weird tuning. It was like
a semitone.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's nothing dissonant about a flatted second. No, there's nothing bad about that at all.
All the guys need to do is like go, bend, go.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh. So like to my ear, I mean, I play, my original band is I played E flat, like In Excess plays in E. Like if you don't really notice the difference until the two are put together. When they're together, you're like, ooh,
yeah,
ooh, what's going on here?
Wow, that must have been just
there's no place.
That's a good one.
You're the singer. There's no place for you to hide during this, man. The other guys can go off stage and figure out their shit. You're like,
yeah,
exactly. And that was one of those. Yep. And so the drummer's got his sunglasses on, and he's just drumming away. And at one point, I turn around and look at him, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders. He's like, and I'm just sitting back here drumming. I'm having to sing. People are filming me because it's one of their biggest songs. And the guitarists will come out and play a chord, and they're like, ooh, that sounds awful, and just run off stage. And I'm just left there going, which key do I want to sing in?
Wow.
Your key or the other key?
Right.
I would be like, I'm not coming back out.
Oh, man.
That's great. Del, thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to have you stay with us just for a minute.
Del, thank you. This was a blast.
While we sign off.
So great. Thanks.
We hope to see you live soon. And
I hope to see you guys. I mean, as soon as I tell people all the time, like my biggest markets in the US would be Topeka, Kansas, Milwaukee, and New York, because like I've got a really good fan base in upstate New York, and then with you guys there on Long Island, and I played quite a few times at Arlene's Grocery and the Bowery Electric as well.
Yeah,
great places.
Can't wait to see you live, man. Can't wait to be in.
Arlene's almost closed, but it's still there. It came very close. It was close.
Yeah,
that was a close one. Wow. So thanks so much for coming on. Hang on with us. We're going to sign off. Good night, everybody.
Everybody, subscribe.
And everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Hit the links, hit the merch. Dellacoma.com, please. What's the date of the release for streaming?
7th of July.
Okay, perfect.
July 7th.
All right, sounds good.
Grim Jack is back with their new single, Hang Down. Let your head hang down. New Grim Jack is available May 14th on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever streaming music is heard. That quality rock and roll sound. More info at grimjack.com.